Hey guys, so I'm going to be mentioning 10 tickers here that we're going to be watching for 2021, and let's just get started here. Okay, so first we have Hyatt. Their ticker symbol is H, and so they just recently reported earnings 2 weeks ago, and they had about a 7% increase in room bookings, and so they've been on the correct trend, and it's mainly supplied by the growth in China and the Southeast. And if you look at their properties, they're actually growing mainly in that area, along with the Americas, of course. They have over 890 properties there, and they're in about the 200s in other ranges. If you look, they're mainly growing in the South and in Eastern Europe right now, as well as Southeast Asia. Overall, if the bookings continue at the same rate, there should be a growth in earnings, as was seen before this whole issue that popped up. And if you look at the price here, it's actually seen that it's underbought, and there's recently a surge, but it's still under the values that it was 2 years ago. And if you look at the 50-day moving average, it's still about 20% below, so there's definitely a room to run. If you look at the balance sheet, you can see that there's definitely a higher value seen in assets as opposed to expenses, and you can see that their earnings have been growing steadily for the past 4 years until 2020 happened. They also added 4 properties, including one in the Caymans. They also added one in Sweden recently, and one of their best properties to come yet is in Vietnam. One major proponent of it is Ron Barron, and he owns a major stake. He also owned Tesla before. Next, we have Facebook here, which we've discussed before in the channel, but just to run through it, they're going to have major growth in the upcoming years, and they've been having about 20% year-over-year growth, and they're actually projected to have over 22% in the coming years. And if you look, they've had growth in not only the Americas, but also Europe and the Asian Pacific as well. And Canada has actually been picking up recently as well, which is something that's been trailing before. Their family value rates are also increasing, and they're also selling more Oculus sets, it seems, and they've had the new Oculus 2 come out. So there's definitely room for growth, and Facebook just continues to grow. So it should be interesting to see going forward in the next year. Next in the trifecta, we have Elon. So that brings upon Tesla as the next option. And there's 4 new models that are out right now. With strong resale value, EPS, and safety measures, it's definitely been growing across customers. There's also the new Cybertruck that comes out in the upcoming months. And one of their big backers is Ron Barron, who brought a big share back when it was in the 200s before the split. And he has a valuation in the trillions, so there's still definitely room to run. One of the big things to remember is that it's also not just a car company. There's other assets that come with it. They also are software companies, what people forget, with the updates that will be coming out with autonomous driving. The next feature is also their solar roofs that are coming out, so they will also be a major player in the solar game. Finally, they also want to do autonomous taxis, and there's various other ambitious projects that Elon has, and it's always great to have a CEO like him backing a company who's always about growth forward. The growth can definitely be seen in the chart as of recently, as it's been going straight vertical, and it's continued to climb ever since this was shown right before. And you can see that the earnings have actually turned positive after showing growth for a number of years now in revenue as well as EPS. So it's actually a very intriguing chart now. Next, we have Alibaba here, ticker symbol BABA. This was when Jack Ma used to run the show, and recently there's a new CEO, but he's still the face of the company, and basically their main competitor is Amazon, but they're in different aspects of the world. This one focuses mainly on Asia, and specifically China. So they have an online base, but they also have other platforms that they make money from. And one of their growing platforms has been cloud, which has continued to dominate the market and has also invested in AI and data analysis. If you look at their their marketplace, they have about 46% of the market share in that area. These are just a few examples of some of the industries that they're involved in, as well as the companies that are their partner. AI, cloud, data structures, and various other things like fintech are some of the things that they're investing in recently. You can see that their price has been in an upward trend recently, and their PE ratio is also quite low at 29, and their forward PE is less than 10 actually. Next we have Datadog here, which is a very interesting company because it's very firmly involved in the roots of data analysis, which is the currency of the future. They announced a partnership with Oracle recently, and they're a big player in the data field and should continue to grow. If you look at their stock price right now, there's actually a dip, which is nice, so you can definitely add it for some growth in the future. And if you look at the moving average, it's a little high, but it's worth to start adding. Also, if you look at some of their products, they're actually very unique and help with organization, which is a huge part of the future. Next we have Skyworks, which is a partner with Apple and various other companies. They've been trying to decrease their reliance on Apple specifically, but we'll get into that later. So they're currently trading under a PE of under 29 actually, since it's dipped recently, and they're fairly valued and have a lot of growth in the 5G space ahead. They produce a lot of chips that are used in the iPhone, and if you look at their growth, they've been growing steadily over the past decade or so, and especially in the past year. And if you look at just the prices over the last 2 years, it's been growing quite steadily and pays a dividend as well. These are some of the partners that they have, which are various car companies, laptop companies, and computer parts and phones, and they're going to be huge in 5G. Next we have Qualcomm, which is also in the 5G space. If you look at their chart, they've also been surging recently, and that's part due to the deals that they've recently gotten, as well as the Snapdragon technology that they've been incorporating. They're going to be a huge factor in AI and autonomous driving as well. If you look at some of the future purposes that they have on their site, it's going to be something that's going to be interesting to watch. Skyworks and Qualcomm have both had interesting growth rates over the past decade or so, and it should be interesting to watch. Next we have Virgin Galactic, which is SPCE. If you look at the chart here, it's been growing, and it's actually quite undervalued compared to its highs before. And Richard Branson is the CEO here, who's basically like the European version of Elon Musk, if people ask. And it should be interesting because it's the first pure space play that's been in the market, and they already have sales of various tickets. The spaceport should be interesting as it could become an icon of the future. And their whole path towards space travel is something that's the first of its kind. Next, they also have some various spaceships that they're designing with partners like Lockheed Martin and Rolls-Royce. And it recently showed their interior, which is actually designed with various windows and luxurious seats. Richard Branson should be an idol for the future and changing the space world. Next, we have Callaway, which actually just bought out a major stake in Topgolf, which should fuel some further growth. Their CEO came out and said that it might actually double their growth rate over the next 2-3 years. And if you look at their rates over the last 3-4 years, this was from just a minority stake in Topgolf. And if you've ever been there, you know it's always filled up, and they always have various things to do, not just golf, but also there's a bar and live entertainment and games to follow. They also have their clubs that they sell, of course, and balls and various equipment. Then 10th we have Grayscale, which is GBTC, so they're actually invested in Bitcoin, and it's a trust fund. Recently, you know, Bitcoin's been surging in price, so this is a nice affordable way to get some exposure, and it actually follows the share price quite accordingly. Also, there's a bit of a premium sometimes, which is nice because there's also a premium when you buy and sell, so it's not like you're only paying the premiums solely. If you look, PayPal's been involved, Square has been involved, and various other billionaires across the world have been putting their assets into Bitcoin. Also, if you study the math, you know that over time it should be growing, but I won't be going into that here. Okay, so please feel free to claim 4 free stocks, actually not 2, from the Webull link below. And please be sure to like and comment and tell me about your top 10, if there's anything you're looking that I missed out on, or if you have a different take on any of those companies. But yeah, let me know, and if there's any companies that you want to look into in more detail in the future. Alright, thanks guys.